you were sent new diagrams and new pages for the Mishnayos itself. We're in Perek Aleph, and I want to go back to the Beis Hamokim. We said that the Harabayas, it's important we do this each day. We try to. Diagram number 2. Diagram number 2. The eastern gate. Our perspective is from the east. We are on Har HaZeisim, and we're looking towards the Beis HaMikdash. We're looking from east to west. So we walk down Har HaZeisim, and we come to this wall. And that's the wall of the Har Habayis. This opening to the Har Habayis, the Shar HaMizrach, is called Shushan Habira. You walk through this gate, you have a lot of open space. Each side has open space. The southern side has the most space. This open space that doesn't have a structure on it is Har Habayis. The Har Habayis had 5 ways to enter it. East, Shushan Habira gate. South, 2 Hulda gates, which you can see if that's really Shar Hulda. If you go to the Kosel Maravi, the way we look at the Kosel, and you look to your right, you have those 2 arches where they've done the digs at the southern wall. That's the Shar Hulda. Up west, you have the Shar Kiponos, and to the north, you have Shar Tedi, which hopefully we're going to get to today. The Mishnah originally said that these 4 of the 5 entrances, east, Shushan Habira, south, Hulda, west, Kapunas, could be used to go in and out of the Beis HaMikdash. Shar Tedi, which is in the north, the Mishnah said, Lo haya mashamish klum. You didn't do it. People didn't go in and out. It didn't serve any purpose almost. We're going to learn today about the purpose it served. We mentioned it then briefly. A Kohen that became Tomei while he was in the Beis HaMikdash and had to leave the Beis HaMikdash, he would leave through this northern gate. It was a private gate. It wasn't meant for everybody to come in and out. And this way, the Kohanim had a private exit way if they became Tomei Chas v'Sholom in the Beis HaMikdash. So we're talking about the Har Habayis, the open space, the structure, which is the Beis HaMikdash. The first square here is the Ezras Noshim, and we're not talking about that today either because that is not included in the word Azorah. We continue to speak about a person going up the 15 steps right here. Those are the 15 steps upon which the Levium said the 15 Shir Hamalos, and we discussed that. And the simplest Beis HaShoeva occurred here in the Ezras Noshim. A person ascended the 15 steps. He came to the eastern gate into the Azorah. This is the Azorah, the top part of the structure. And the first part is called Ezras Yisrael, and then there's Ezras Kohanim. But this whole structure above, again, not the below Ezras Noshim, the structure above, is the Azorah. And this Azorah had 7 openings to get into the Azorah. So the Har Habayis had 5 gates to get into it. That's the outer wall. And once you entered the outer wall and you wanted to go into the Beis HaMikdash, you needed to find one of those 7 gates, and you couldn't go through all 7 because only Kohanim can go through some of them. But assuming you're Yisrael, you came down Har HaZeisim, you walked through Shushan Habira, you walked right here. We're going to see that again today, hopefully in the Rambam. There's this thin line, which is also a gate. That gate is called the Soreg. It was about 10 tefachim high, 10 tefachim high. It's about 2 feet, short gate, short wall. The purpose of the wall was it was a demarcation line, most noticeably for Goyim. Goyim were allowed to come to the Har HaBayis under certain conditions. They wanted to bring a korban, but they couldn't go past this thin wall. Between this thin wall and the thicker wall is a place called the Chel. And the Chel was 10 amos wide. 10 amos wide, you're talking about 22, 24 feet. Okay. Yeah, I originally said that the soreg, the small wall, was 10 tefachim high. So 10 tefachim is about 25, 26 something inches. It wasn't very high, 2.5 feet. But the distance between this short fence soreg, that was the demarcation line for Goyim, and getting to the thicker wall, which begins the Ezras Nashim, there was 10 amos there. Then you entered the Ezras Nashim, you came to the 15 steps, you walked up the 15 steps, you walked through the Shar Nicanor. We talked about Nicanor. Shar Nicanor. Shar Nicanor is one of the 7 gates into the Azorah. So you have 1 gate to the east, you're going to have 3 gates to the south, and 3 gates to the north. And we learned about those 6 gates. The eastern gate is gate 7, Nicanor. 3 on the south, 3 on the north. And we learned about those gates. One of those gates was actually a room. The Mishnah says on page 25, the Beis Hamoked, which is one of the 6 gates. There are 3 on the southern wall, 3 on the northern wall of the Azorah. And here's the picture, which is your diagram 5. Okay. Here's the Beis Hamoked. These are the other 2 entryways into the Azorah. And they're basically entryways. You go in, and once you go through the door, you're basically in the Azorah. That's not true for the Beis Hamoked. The Beis Hamoked was a large room. The key to understanding this large room, as we explained, was, if we go now to diagram 7, diagram 7. It was a large room. Part of this room was built outside the wall of the Azorah. Outside the wall of the Azorah is Har HaBayis territory. And part of the room was built inside the Azorah, which is now Azorah territory. And the Kedusha between Har HaBayis and Azorah are very different. On the Har HaBayis, we've learned that you can sit. In the Azorah, you couldn't sit. And therefore, the showmen were set up in such a way that they were put in places where they can sit, because they had to stay up the whole night. You can eat Kodshe Kadoshim. A Kohen can eat a Korban Chatas or a Korban Osham in the Azorah. He can't eat it on the Har HaBayis. So there's the very important differences between Har HaBayis and the Azorah. In Hilchos Tumah, tremendous differences. A person that's came in contact with a dead body, and even the dead body itself, can be on the Har HaBayis. It can't be in the Azorah. So this huge room, part of it was built on the territory known as Har HaBayis, and part of it was built in territory known as Azorah. So if we go back to picture number 2, the picture we just looked at, this is the northern wall of the Azorah, and you can see here the Beis Hamoked. Part of this room is inside this yellow goldish area, which is Azorah, and therefore the part of the room that's inside the Azorah, what we can call the southern part of the room, is Azorah. That part of this room that's outside this wall is considered Har HaBayis, and therefore has a lower level Kedusha. This room has 4 separate chambers in it, in the corners. Now you have, we used a picture yesterday, and I sent out, I believe, diagram number 8, but we're going to skip diagram number 8 because I found a better diagram. And I sent it to Shmuel, and it's diagram number 9. And this comes from a book that actually has color pictures. It's diagram number 9. This is a picture of the Beis HaMoked, aerial view of the Beis HaMoked. And I've put my notes on it. This is the north. This is the south. 2 rooms, the southern corners of the Beis HaMoked. 2 rooms, northern corners of Beis HaMoked. The 2 rooms that are on the southern Beis HaMoked are going to be in Azora territory. The 2 rooms on the northern portion of the Beis HaMoked are in Harabayas territory. And this is what we learned about in the Mishnah. And I noted it. Okay, southwest. Here's southwest, and this is in the Azora, and this is where they kept a minimum of 6 animals. The Mishnah says this is Lishkas. They talk in the Mishnah on page 25. It's called Lishkas Teloi Carbon. This is where they kept a minimum of 6 animals to be able to bring for karbonos. They needed to be inspected from blemishes. 6 animals that were ready kosher for carbon were kept in this room. And this is in Kodesh. It's in Azora territory because it is to the south. It is SW, southwest. Northwest, I'm sorry, southeast, getting my direction confused. Southeast, which is also in Azora territory, it's this part. This is where they made the Lechem Hapanim, also in Azora territory. These 2 rooms are on the northern side of this room. The top is northwest, and in this room, they made the Lechem Hapanim. I'm sorry, in this room, let's go back to the Mishnah, I'm sorry. In this room, Mizrachis Tzefonis. Okay, the Mishnah, northwest right here is in the Harabayas. This is a room that had a staircase in it. The staircase went underneath the Beis HaMikdash because the Beis HaMikdash was built, as we mentioned yesterday, on an incline. For example, we looked at diagram 2. To get into the Azor, you had to go up 15 steps. So the structure was moving upwards, which means that underneath there were tunnels and there were rooms. So in the northwest corner, which is in the Harabayas portion, there was a stairwell. That stairwell went down underneath the Azora, and it took you to a mikveh if a Kohen had to be tovel himself. This room here, which is northeast, which is also in the Harabayas area, is the place where it's called Lishkat HaChotamot. That's where you bought, so to speak, your receipts. A person needed wine, oil, flour for his carbon mincha, his carbon. You went into this room, you paid the treasurer. The treasurer would then give you a receipt that said what you paid and what you bought. You went and to another room, and you gave in your receipt, and they gave you the flour, the wine, the oil, whatever it is you purchased, and then you gave it to the Kohen who was able to do the avoda with it. Besides that, in this room, you can see they're trying to show you some stones. These are stones of the Mizbeach of the second Beis HaMikdash. The Yevonim, when they took over the Beis HaMikdash, they defiled the Beis HaMikdash and specifically defiled the Mizbeach, and they brought karbonos to avodah zarah Nebuch and this Mizbeach. When the Chashmonaim took over the Beis HaMikdash, they took apart that Mizbeach, built a new Mizbeach. and the old stones were put into this room. So this is an aerial view of the Beis Hamoked. In the middle of the Beis Hamoked, you can see that they're showing you a fire. And that's why it's called the Beis Hamoked, the room of fire. As we mentioned, there's a marble floor throughout the Beis Hamikdash. Kohanim had to walk barefoot during avoda because there could be no chatzitza between their body and the floor. And it got kind of cold. So when they wanted to warm up their bodies, they would come into the Beis Hamoked around this fire. So the Beis Hamoked has 4 chambers. 2 of the chambers are on the southern side of the Beis Hamoked, which means they're in the Azorah and have Kedushas Azorah. 2 of the chambers are on the northern side of the Beis Hamoked, and they have the Kedusha of Har Habayis. And this room itself is set on the northern wall of the Azorah. So again, if you go back to diagram 5, this is the entrance of the Beis Hamoked. You entered into here, and then you're not inside the Azorah yet. You just entered a huge room. If you continue walking through that room, on the other side of the room, as you continue walking through the room, you will get to another opening, and that will take you in to the Azorah. So that's the aerial view of the Beis Hamoked. Okay, now we can move on. We read this Mishnah, page 26. Shnei She'orim, Parak Aleph Mishnah Zayin, Shnei She'orim hoyu leBeis Hamoked. There were 2 openings into the Beis Hamoked. Echad pasuach lachel. We just learned about chel. Going back to diagram number 2, northern wall of the Azorah has the Beis Hamoked right here. In order to go into the Beis Hamoked, you had to walk through this area. You had to go past the Soreg, past the Chel, and into the Beis Hamoked. And at the other end of the Beis Hamoked, you walked out into the Azorah. But you had to go through the Chel. The Chel is around the whole Beis Hamikdash, and that's the place demarcation. The Soreg said Goyim can't go past that. This thin space is Chel. And so the Beis Hamoked right here, first you had to walk through the Chel, step into the Beis Hamoked, walk through the Beis Hamoked, and enter the Azorah. So that's what the Mishnah is describing here. Shnei She'orim hoyu leBeis Hamoked. The Beis Hamoked had actually 2 openings. Echad pasuach lachel. One opening opens into the Chel. One opening opens into the Chel, which means if you're leaving the Beis Hamoked, you would walk through the Chel and onto Har Habayis. Echad pasuach lazorah. And one opening goes the other way into the Azorah. Rabbi Yehuda said, Zeh shehoya pasuach lazorah. The door that led into the Azorah, pishpash cotton haylo, it had a small door in the door. In other words, these doors are huge. We'll learn about that in the next parak in Yetz Hashem. The doors are large. They're very tall. You didn't have to open the whole door for a human being to go through, but they made these doors look like the doors of a palace, which they were. God's palace. So they made these huge, beautiful doors, but they made a little door in this door, and you were able to open the little door and walk through it without opening the big door. The big door was only open during avoda hours. But before the avoda started, Kohanim had to go into the Azorah very early morning to check to make sure that throughout the Azorah, all the kalim, all the vessels that will be needed to bring a korban that day will be in the right place. This is not a place where you stop and say, oh, can someone pass me a cup? I need to be makabel v'dam. Or, oh, can somebody pass me a knife? I need to shecht an animal. That's not how the Beis Hamikdash works. It's God's palace. Everything is done beseder, on time, efficiently. So before the avoda began in the morning, they opened this, the Kohen opened this little door in the big door in the Beis Hamokeh, the inner door that went to the Azorah. They went in, and then part of them went to the east, part of them went to the west. They walked around the whole Azorah. We look at this picture, diagram 2. They're in the Beis Hamokeh, which is where they slept. The ones that are going to do the avodah the next day, they walked out through the little door. Some of them went to the west. Some of them walked to the east. And they continued walking around until they made a complete circle. We'll learn about where they met. And they made sure that every utensil was in its place, ready to go. So as soon as the avodah started, it happened without interruption. So that's what Rabbi Yehuda is telling us. The doorway in the Beis Hamokeh, that was the inner doorway that went into the Azorah, it had a little door and the big door. Through there, the Kohanim would go in, Livlosh es Azorah, to inspect, to investigate the Azorah, to make sure all the Kalim were in their right place. Page 27, Beis Hamokeh Kippah. The Beis Hamokeh was a kippah. It was a domed building. Diagram number 5. Beis Hamokeh is a dome building. Now this is according to one pshat. According to this pshat, the Beis Hamokeh was a regular building like the other gates. They just built a dome on top for reasons we don't need to go into now. They built a dome on top. That is one pshat. The other pshat is that the whole building was a dome. In other words, it was built like an igloo. So one pshat that we see in this picture, it was a building with a dome on top. And another pshat is the whole place was a dome. It was like an igloo. So those are the two pshatim in what this Beis Hamokeh, this kippah, was. Okay, if we want to get we'll get a better picture in a few moments. So Mishnah Ches on page 27 says, Beis Hamokeh kippah. Beis Hamokeh was a dome. Whether it was a dome on top or the whole thing was built in a dome-like fashion, like an igloo, is a question. Ubayis Godel Hoy, it was a very, very big room. Mukaf Rovdim Shel Even, and it had what looked like steps of stone built in, and this was a place where the Kohanim were able to sleep. Which Kohanim? We've already explained that there are 24 Mishmaras Kohanim, and they would rotate. Week 1, Kohen, Mishmar, that family or that group 1. 25 weeks later, 24 weeks later, however the math works, they would come up again and do the work in the Beis HaMikdash. Inside each Mishmar, they were broken into 6 parts or 7 parts. If you take a look in your Rav in the Mishnayos, the Rav in the Mishnayos on page 27, Ziknei Beis Av, he writes, HaMishmar hoya mischalik l'shiva batei avos kamini nemos hashavua. The Rav says that there were 7 batei av. Each Mishmar, we'll call it Mishmar Reuven. Mishmar Reuven came for week 1. Mishmar Reuven was then broken into 6 subparts. The Rav says 7. There are a lot of questions on the Rav. It seems that there's a Gemara Mefurish that says there were only 6. Each of these groups, group 1 worked on Yom Rishon, group 2, Yom Sheni, etc. On Shabbos, all 6 groups joined in the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. The Rav here says that there were actually 7 broken down groups. There was a separate group for Shabbos. That seems to be very difficult, and many Mefarshim ask on the Rav. Either way, the Kohanim that slept in the Beis HaMokeh, this huge chamber that has, this huge room that has 4 chambers that we just learned about, that's a dome. The Kohanim who would do the work the next day would sleep there the night before. And we're only talking about the older Kohanim. The younger Kohanim were expected to get up early, very early morning, and get to the Beis HaMikdash on time. But a little dispensation was given to the older Kohanim who were part of this Monday or Sunday or Tuesday group. that they were allowed to sleep inside the Beis Hamoked, so that this way, as soon as they wake up, they're in the Beis Hamikdash ready to go. This is for the older Kohanim. I'm not sure how you define older, but the older Kohanim were able to sleep in the Beis Hamoked. The younger Kohanim had to wake up early morning and walk to the Beis Hamikdash. Where did they sleep? So you don't have this picture. It was difficult for me to scan because it's a very dark picture, but it's in the Kahati Mishnayot. Okay. On the walls of the Beis Hamoked, they built what looks like steps. Not the most comfortable thing for an old person to sleep on, but they were able to sleep on these steps and ready for the next morning. Okay. These are things that are built into the wall. Now, if we have our thinking caps on, we know that you can't sit in the Azara. You certainly can't lay down in the Azara. So where would these rovdim be? If the Kohanim are going to sleep on these rovdim, where would these rovdim be? We go back to picture number 9. These rovdim can only be built on the wall that's on the northern side of the Beis Hamoked. The northern side of the Beis Hamoked, we said, is Har Habayis territory. This part of the Beis Hamoked is sitting on Har Habayis. Therefore, between these two chambers, they were able to build these steps, and you were able to sleep here. You couldn't build those kind of steps in this area because that's now a Zora area. You can't sit there, let alone sleep there. So that's where these rovdim were. V'ziknei Beis Av Yeshenim Sham, the older Kohanim who were members of this specific Beit Av, the Monday people, the Tuesday people. Remember, the week is called a Mishmar, and there are 24. Each Mishmar is then broken down into 6 groups, according to the Rav 7. And each of these groups does its work on one day in the Beis Hamikdash, and all 6 get together on Shabbos to do the Avod in the Beis Hamikdash. The group that is designated for tomorrow, Wednesday, the Wednesday group of this week is Mishmar Reuven, and tomorrow is group 4, Yom Revi'i of Mishmar Reuven. The older Kohanim of Mishmar Revi'i would come to the Beis Hamikdash tonight and sleep on those rovdim so they don't have to walk early in the morning to the Beis Hamikdash. So it says, the Mishnah says on page 27, Mishnah Ches, V'ziknei Beis Av Yeshenim Sham. The elders of the Beis Av would sleep there. U'maftachos ha'azora biyadam. They had the keys to the Azara. There were, we said, 7 gates to the Azara, the Shar Nicanor, the 3 on the southern wall, and the 3 on the northern wall, and one of these is the Beis Hamoked, and they had keys to them, and they got locked up at night. Once there was no avoda to be done, you're not allowed to do avoda at night, the doors got locked. And these elder Kohanim of this particular Mishmar, which changed each night, who was sleeping there, they were in charge of the keys. And when they got there at night and the other Beis Av left, Beis Av of Tuesday handed the keys Tuesday night to Beis Av of Wednesday. The Beis Av of Tuesday left. The Beis Av of Wednesday, the elders slept in the Beis Hamoked, and they began the process of locking all the 7 gates into the Azara. Upirchei Kahuna, and the very young Kohanim, Ish Kisto Ba'aretz, they would sleep on the floor of the Beis Hamoked, and they would have a pillow under their head. Now, we just said that the younger Kohanim did not sleep in the Beis Hamoked. We said that they had to walk to the Beis Hamikdash. That is correct. And the Rav explains, and the Mefarshim explain, that we're talking about very young Kohanim here. And these Kohanim, remember, they were Kohanim that stood guard. The Kohanim guarded the Beis Hamikdash at night, according to most Mefarshim, only at night. They guarded in 3 places, our first mission in Middos, almost 3 weeks ago. We're building for 3 weeks, Rabbi Isai. The building's going up. So we learned about 3 Kohanim, 3 places that the Kohanim guarded the Beis HaMikdash. And every place where Kohen guarded the Beis HaMikdash, there was a Levi that assisted him. And that's in addition to the 21 places that the Leviim guarded the Beis HaMikdash. Remember, 4-5-4-5-3. One of the 3 places that the Kohanim guarded the Beis HaMikdash was the Beis HaMoked. So in this Beis HaMoked, there was a Kohen or 10 Kohanim that stood up the whole night to watch the Beis HaMikdash, to watch this area, even though they locked the doors. It's a palace. Which means that outside the door of the Beis HaMoked, there was 1 Levi or 10 Leviim also guarding as assistants to the Kohen. So let's see now what's going on in this Beis HaMoked. Tuesday evening, the Beis Av of Tuesday finished their avodah for the day. The Beis Av of Wednesday comes into the Beis HaMoked. The elders get the elders for the Wednesday Beis Av get the keys from the elders of the Tuesday Beis Av who are now done. The Tuesday Kohanim leave. The elders of Wednesday take the keys, and they were going to lock the 7 gates to the Azara. These elders then go to sleep on the rovdim, on these step-like structures inside the Beis HaMoked. And certain group of young Kohanim now stand guard, but they didn't have to stand. They were able to sit, because where did they guard? Remember, the Beis HaMoked has 2 parts to it. Part of it is in Azora territory where you couldn't sit, and part of it is in Harabayas territory where you could sit. So this Kohen or 10 Kohanim sat in that part of the Beis HaMoked where you were allowed to sit, and they were up the whole night guarding. And there were 10 Leviim or 1 Levi outside the Beis HaMoked, not in the Azara, but in the Chel, and they were guarding as well. That's what those young Kohanim, a certain small group of young Kohanim in the Beis HaMoked guarding. The elders were sleeping on these steps. The other young Kohanim who were not guarding, they were outside the Beis HaMikdash, and they had to come early morning. So that's what the Mishnah means when it says, Upirche Kahuna Ish Kisto Biyado. The young Kohanim who were guarding inside the Beis HaMoked, they didn't leave just 1 or 10, depending upon what your sheet is, assuming your sheet is like the Rambam, that each guard post had 10. So inside the Beis HaMoked, there were 20 guards, 10 Kohanim that were awake, and 10 young Kohanim that were asleep. And they would switch guards. The 10 Kohanim that were asleep on the floor, they would wake up, and the 10 Kohanim that were sitting and guarding would take a nap, and they would rotate during the night. So there were 20, according to the Rambam, Kohanim inside the Beis HaMoked, but in the territory Beis HaMoked, that's Harabayas, where the guards who are awake can sit, and the guards who will rotate with them can lay on the floor and sleep. And they did this rotation. So this is the Beis HaMoked. Big room, 4 chambers in the room. Part of the room is in the Azora. Part of the room is on the Harabayas territory. The Harabayas territory has the 10 guards, Kohanim, 10 young Kohanim sleeping, who will eventually relieve them of their duty and switch. And there are 10 Leviim outside the door of the Beis HaMoked towards the Chel, and they're sitting there guarding as well. Mishnah Tes, Umakom Hoyasham Amma al Amma. Another thing in the Beis HaMoked, there was a floor of a tile floor, beautiful, call it ceramics, marble, beautiful floor. There was one piece of the floor that was actually removable. And if you go to diagram 9, I circled it. It's not that clear in the picture, but I circled it. There's one piece of marble that was not cemented into the ground. You were able to pick it up. And this piece of marble was an amma by an amma. about 2.2 feet by 2.2 feet, something like that. V'tavla shel shayish v'tabas hoisa kavua bo. There was a hook on top of this piece of marble, so that you were able to put your hand in the hook and pick up this piece of marble. What was inside that was underneath this floor. And under this tile, make believe this is the tile. On top of the tile, there's a hook. I pick up the hook and the tile comes up. Underneath the hook, there was a chain. And at the bottom of the chain were the keys to all the openings of the Azorah. There was a chain on which all the keys were. It came time at night to shut down all the gates of the Azorah. A Kohen from the Wednesday, tomorrow's Beis Av, would lift up the tavla, because remember, the Tuesday Beis Av, they came in, picked up the ring, picked up the marble, took out the keys, and at the appropriate time, they opened the 7 gates of the Azorah to do the avoda for the whole day. They then put the keys back on this chain and put the piece of marble back in the floor. The Wednesday Beis Av shows up Tuesday night, and they're going to take over the avoda. One of the first things they're going to do is they're going to pick up that piece of marble, take the keys out from the chain, and lock up the Azorah, because you can't do avodah at night. So the Mishnah says, it came time to close down the doors of the Azorah. You lifted up this square in the floor with the hook. You took the keys from the ring. The Kohen who was inside, remember the Kohanim inside the Beis Hamokeh, he locked the door from the inside. Uben Levi, the word here should not be Yoshev. The Rav explained should be Yoshev. Ben Levi Yoshev lo mi bachutz. Now there's a Ben Levi outside. Remember, 10 Kohanim inside the Beis Hamokeh guarding, 10 young ones sleeping on the floor to rotate with them during the night. But you can sit there or you can sleep there because it's part of the Beis Hamokeh that's on Har HaBayis territory. They locked the outer door to the Beis Hamokeh, and now there are 10 Leviim, according to the Rambam, guarding the Beis Hamokeh from the outside. Gomar Melino, the process of closing down the gates of the Azorah is finished. Hechzir es hamaftachos l'shalsheles. You return the keys back to the chain, you put the square back in the ground. Ves hatavla limkoma, you put the square back into its place. Nosan ksusa oleha, he then put his garment on top of it, yoshen lo. And this Kohen who did the locking up, who was in charge of the keys, he would sleep on a piece of clothing, and he would put his head on the piece of clothing, which was now on this piece of piece of tile, to make sure that nobody got to it. He put his head down on a piece of clothing, and he went to sleep with his head on this square. So nobody's coming to take those keys during the night without him knowing. He's sleeping on the square. If in the Beis Hamokeh, one of the Kohanim who's sleeping became ritually impure through Keri, now what do? You're in the Beis Hamokeh, you become ritually impure, what do? You run, you scream, what do? What did we just learn before? One of the 4 chambers in the Beis Hamokeh, diagram 9, northwest. We said there was a staircase that went to a tunnel under the Azorah, and there was a mikveh beneath there. So if a Kohen who was sleeping in the Beis Hamokeh became ritually impure, he got up, he went into this room, which is northwest, which means it's in Har HaBayis territory. He's not in Azorah. That would be really, really problematic if he became Tameh in the Azorah. He became Tameh here in this area where he was sleeping or sitting, which is Har HaBayis territory, went into this chamber, walked down the steps, and beneath there was a mikveh. If one of the Kohanim became ritually impure through Keri, he would go into that room and then walk down the staircase. Now, why is it called a Masiba? Let's see if I have a picture of that. The Masiba, it's called a Masiba as if it's going round and round because it was a circular staircase. So they called it a Masiba. Okay, I'll just show you a picture. It's not in the diagrams that I sent, but this is what the square looked like in the ground. A square came out of the floor. It had a hook on top to pick it up. The square beneath it has a chain. Beneath it are the keys. Oh, here we go. Next page. I didn't send this. There's the circular staircase. That's the Masiba, according to Amshad. So you went into that room, into the Beis Hamokeh. There was a circular staircase, took you underneath the Beis Hamikdash, and there was a mikveh there. Vahaneros dolkos, dolkim mikano mikan. They made sure that there were torches on both sides. There's no electricity. So you need to know how, you need to see where you're walking down the steps and where you're walking in this dark tunnel. So they made sure that there were torches always on each side. Achu Magia lebeis hatvila, until he comes to the room underneath the Beis Hamikdash, which has the mikveh in it. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov disagrees with this. The Mishnah is not giving us a full picture here. The Mishnah in Talmud gives us the full picture in terms of concepts. According to the first opinion of the Mishnah, the Kohen who became Tameh would go into this chamber in the Beis Hamokeh, walk down the steps, go to the mikveh, and then he would come back up the steps, and he would stay in the Beis Hamokeh until morning when the doors open, and he'd be able to leave the Har HaBayis. But in the meantime, they allowed him to stay in the Beis Hamokeh. Now, we're going to learn more about this tomorrow, about a Kohen and Tumah and where you can go and where you can't go. You have a lot of interesting diagrams that I sent. We're going to go into that tomorrow. We'll look at the Rambam. You have even a diagram. I believe it's the last diagram that I sent to Shmuel. It's diagram 11. Well, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's pretty good. It superimposes the Beis Hamikdash that we just learned about, we've been learning about, onto the Har HaBayis as pictured today. So if you want to imagine, where's the Beis Hamikdash on the Har HaBayis as I see it today? Where's the Kosel Maravi? Where's the Kodesh Kadoshim? So this picture superimposes the Har HaBayis and the Beis Hamikdash on what we call today the Har HaBayis. I'm going to take a look at that, B'li Neder, tomorrow. So, but this is going to lead us into a discussion about who can be where on the Har HaBayis and the Azorah. So the first opinion of the Mishnah is that this Kohen who became Tomei, he became a Balkeri in the Beis Hamokeh. In the Beis Hamokeh, there's the area that's Har HaBayis territory. He went down into the chamber, down the steps, went to the mikveh. He went to the mikveh. He's not ritually pure yet. We think about men going to the mikveh of Shabbos. They go in, they go out. Women going after Nida, they come out, they're pure. We're not talking about that kind of tumah. Tumah, for many tumahs, there's something called Herav Shemesh. After you go to the mikveh during the daytime, you're still not ritually pure for certain halachas until sunset. It's called Herav Shemesh. So if somebody went to the mikveh at 3 in the afternoon, he wasn't completely ritually pure until the sun set, or Tzeis HaKochavim, the first discussion in the Mishnah and Brachas on Beis Amud Aleph, Tzeis HaKochavim. The Gemara discusses what Tzeis HaKochavim we're talking about, is it Shkia, etc. Whatever the case may be, the first Mishnah and Bracha says, from when can a person read Kriya Shema? Mishah Kohanim Nechnosam Lechol B'Tshumosam. When a Kohen's allowed to enter the Beis Hamikdash, the Azorah, and eat Truma. I'm sorry, let's delete the words for now, enter the Beis Hamikdash. From the time a Kohen can eat Truma. A Kohen who became Tomei today, he touched a dead rat. He can't eat Truma. So as soon as he can, he touched the dead rat at 3 in the afternoon. At 3:10 in the afternoon, he's in the mikveh. He still can't eat Truma. He has to wait till sunset or nightfall of that day. Today's Tuesday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Tuesday, he came into contact with a dead rat. Can't eat Truma for the rest of the day. He goes to the mikveh at 3:10, comes out of the mikveh. He still can't eat Truma. Tonight, at sunset or at nightfall, we'll use Tzeis HaKochavim. Nightfall. Then he can start eating Truma again. That's called Herav Shemesh. You have to wait till nightfall. So here we have a Kohen who became Tomei inside the Beis Hamokeh during the night. He went down into the mikveh and he came back up, but he's not Tar yet. He's a Tvul young. He just immersed in the mikveh. He doesn't have Herav Shemesh. It's true, he went into the mikveh during the night, but after he went to the mikveh, there was no sunset. There's no Tzeis HaKochavim. So he really should, after he goes to the mikveh, he should leave the Har HaBayis. And there were tunnels through which he could have left the Har HaBayis. The first opinion of the Mishnah says, we're not going to be so stringent with this person for reasons we're going to have to learn tomorrow, Bli Neder. We're not going to be so stringent with this person in Hilchos Tumah. And we're going to let him go to the mikveh below, walk back up the steps, and stay in the part of the Beis Hamokeh that's Har HaBayis. And then wait till morning, he can leave the Har HaBayis. And then when it's nightfall, that evening, he'll be able to be Tahor again. That's the first opinion of the Mishnah. He came back up from the mikveh, went into the Beis Hamokeh, the Har HaBayis side, and stayed there till the morning. Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov, page 29, Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov, Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov says, B'masiba ha'holeches tachas hachel. There was a tunnel under the chel on the northern wall of the Azorah. Yotzei v'holech lo betedi. He left the entire Har HaBayis. We don't let him go back up into the Beis Hamokeh, Rebbe Eliezer says. Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov says, no way, we're not letting him back up to the Beis Hamokeh because he's a Tful Yom and hasn't had a sunset or a Tzeis HaKochavim. So remember, we learned about the 5 gates. 5 gates of the Har HaBayis. East, Shushan Abira. 2, Shari Chulda. 1 to the west, Tevunos, and 1 to the north, Tedi. And the Mishnah at the very beginning of the Masechta said, Tedi lo mishamish klum. Tedi nothing was done at Tedi. You weren't allowed to normally enter and exit at Tedi. So what was Tedi used for? So we mentioned that it was a private tsanua exit entry for Kohanim who became Tomei. Well, if you're Tomei, how did you get here altogether? So now we have the answer. Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov says that if a Kohen became Tomei, specifically for us now, in the Beis Hamokeh, okay, here's the Beis Hamokeh, the large room, became Tomei. One of the 4 chambers in that room went down to a mikveh. He was toivel in the mikveh. And Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov said there was also a tunnel that continued from the mikveh, continued straight, and led to Shar Tedi. And he was able to leave the Har HaBayis through a tunnel under the Beis HaMikdash, which took him to Teddy on the northern wall. And that's what it means when it says Lo Mashamash Klum. It didn't, nobody used it for anything. It was only used as a private exit way for Kohanim most of the time, who became Tomei. So, Rabbi Sai, men, women, Mazel Tov, we finished basically the first parak of Middos. We have a very good idea of what the Beis Hamikdash and Har HaBayis looks like. We're going to get a better picture tomorrow when we see the Rambam. We learn some Hilchos Tum and Tahara, who can go where and when. And that will complete for us Parak Aleph of Masechta Middos. I don't know how many of you actually went to the video that was sent around by Shmuel, which came courtesy of Rabbi Samit, but it's very kedai, it's free. You get the email that was sent out. It shows the special code to type in, and you can watch this video. It's a beautiful narrative, and you will now absolutely enjoy this video of the Beis Hamikdash because you will understand everything that the narrator is talking about. The gates of the Har HaBayis, the gates of the Azorah, etc. And you'll really enjoy it because it will come to life as you walk through the Beis Hamikdash and its different parts. For today, we said that we'd summarize a little part of the DaAs Tevunos. And the way we're going to summarize it is by taking a look, we said, at a piece of Rav Kook. We said that the Ribono Shel Olam created a perfectly imperfect world, said we will be able to perfect the world, become partners with God in creation. The only way we can do that is through Bechira. We make choices. By making the right choices, we perfect the world. Wrong choices, we imperfect ourselves and give more imperfection to ourselves in the world. Chas v'shalom. So we create a shleimus, a perfection for ourselves and for the world by making the right choices. That makes us a sholem. That is hutzai uschorei. That's a merit, and that's your reward, that you're a better person, which we discussed several times. And because you're a sholem, you now have a ticket into Olam Haba to be nene misef hashchina. And the whole purpose of this is, for right now, hatova. God is the perfect God of good, and the way the perfect God of good does good is he gives us an opportunity not to get free lollipops, but to earn our way. We spoke about that with the tree and the fruits growing towards the tree, the grafting case. That's the Bria. God created the Bria where the Bria, even trees, want to feel that that which they get, they have earned. They don't want to be sustained through a process of tzedakah. Again, there's a mitzvah in the Torah to give tzedakah. People are needy, especially now. There's a mitzvah de'oraisa of tzedakah. But tzedakah is not a shita. Tzedakah is not a parnasa. Tzedakah is an exception to the general rule that a person should be able to be self-sufficient. It's the way the Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world. So Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world, an perfectly imperfect world, so that we can perfect it. And we talked yesterday about the two forms of tzimtzum according to the Ramchal, and we'll come back to that Bli Neder tomorrow. Today, I'd like to take a look. We usually learn, when we were in Beis Tefillah, we learned some Rav Kook every Wednesday. We'll do it a little today. We usually learn Rav Kook Orot HaTorah. Emet Shem, Mashiach is going to come. We'll have a Beis Hamikdash. We'll have Rav Kook being able to teach us his Orot HaTorah B'mher Yameinu. You notice how I'm trying to emphasize, I'm not trying to get back to Beis Tefillah to learn Orot HaTorah. But Beis Tefillah is a wonderful place. All the shuls are wonderful places. And we know that they're going to have wonderful, wonderful purposes when Mashiach comes. We're not throwing them down. They're going to be wonderful purposes for them. And they're going to be used for holy things. But they're not the Beis HaMikdash. So Mirz Hashem, what we're looking forward to is not going back to shul. We're looking forward to ascending to the Beis HaMikdash and hearing shiurim, Gavaldige shiurim. We're going to hear from Moshe Rabbeinu, Eliyahu Hanavi. Good shiurim. Good shiurim. Okay. So the piece of Rav Kook that we're looking at talks about a person perfecting himself. But Rav Kook talks about this in terms of Havdalah. When you make Havdalah Motzoi Shabbos, you make it on a fire. One of the things you say is Borei mi orei ha'esh. The handout that you have is really in the middle of a discussion. This comes from a sefer called Iyunei Aya. analysis of Rav Kook, and it's written by Rav Gil Devere. And each week in the parsha, he quotes a different piece of Rav Kook. Rav Kook wrote so many svarim that he just selected pieces of Rav Kook and connected them to the parsha. So this is a piece in Parshas Tazria where the Torah talks about a woman giving birth. And the Medrash in that parsha talks about a dialogue between Turnus Rupus HaRasha, a Roman general Yamach Shemoy, Turnus Rupus, and Rabbi Akiva. They're having a discussion. And Turnus Rupus opens the discussion by saying, Rabbi Akiva, who is more creative, God or man? And Rabbi Akiva says, man is more creative than God. And Turnus Rupus says to Rabbi Akiva, what are you talking about? Why don't you look at the heavens? Look at the beautiful heavens. Can you create something as beautiful as the heavens? A human being can't create the heavens. Of course, God's more creative than man. Rabbi Akiva says, don't talk about the heavens. The heavens are a place that man can't reach. Let's talk about things that man can reach. And now let's compare what God created and what man created. And then they get into a discussion of bris milah, which is the subject of Parshas Tazria, Bayom Hashmini Yimol B'Sar Loso. They get into a discussion of why did God create a Jew to need a bris milah? Why didn't he just create him perfect and he wouldn't need a bris milah? But that's not the subject that Rav Kook is going to talk about. Rabbi Akiva then says to Turnus Rupus, listen, forget about the heavens. I can't reach the heavens, but let's talk about what's here on earth. And then Rabbi Akiva says, I want to show you something. You see this? These are stalks of wheat. This is God's creation. They grow in a field. It's a miracle. This is God's creation. I want to show you a beautiful cake. I took the wheat, I made it into flour, I mixed it with water, and I made this beautiful cake, all different colors, all different flavors. This is God's work, and this is me taking God's imperfect work and perfecting it into a beautiful cake. Now you tell me, Turnus Rupus HaRasha, who's more creative here on earth, God or man? What is this discussion, this dialogue between Rabbi Akiva and Turnus Rupus? What's behind this discussion? Rabbi Akiva just is not engaging in idle chat with Turnus Rupus. Turnus Rupus is trying to convince Rabbi Akiva that man can't be creative. God created, and that's it. Rabbi Akiva is saying, no. God created an imperfect world, and we're here to perfect it. Now, Rabbi Akiva is not going to teach Turnus Rupus HaRasha the DaAs Tevunos about how you perfect the neshama and bechira. He's not going to teach him DaAs Tevunos, obviously. So Rabbi Akiva uses a physical example to Turnus Rupus. He says, look, here's God's creation on earth, stalks of wheat, they're wonderful. And here's what man does with the stalks of wheat. He takes that imperfect stalk of wheat and makes it this beautiful cake that people can eat, make a bracha on, make a nach bracha on, and enjoy. In the context of that dialogue, Rav Kook says as follows, but the introduction, this is the introduction that Rav Devere gives. Rabbi Akiva is trying to explain to Turnus Rupus this idea of a perfectly imperfect world that we as human beings were given the task to perfect. That's not something that Romans want to hear about. The Roman Empire thinks it's already perfect. The Roman Empire thinks it will last forever. The Roman Empire thinks it will rule forever. The Roman Empire thinks it has the perfect immoral culture. It's perfect. What do you mean? Somebody's going to come and perfect Rome? Rome is perfect. We are the God-crowned sovereigns of the world, and God is perfect and created the Roman sovereigns to be perfect. What do you mean the world's perfectly imperfect? Rabbi Akiva is trying to explain to him that you're not perfect. The world's not perfect. Jews are not perfect. And we're here to perfect the world. But he uses the example of a stalk of wheat and a cake. That's the background that Rav Devere gives us to this Rav Kook. So now we're on page 128. It says, Hagoda Misaperes, Shebemoitzoi HaShabbos HaRishon Shel Odom HaRishon Hu Shifshe Shtei Avonim V'Yotze Eish. According to the Gemara, how did fire come into the world? It says that Odom HaRishon, Motzoi Shabbos, rubbed two rocks together and a fire came out. And from there, we have a minig that Motzei Shabbos, we light two candles, and we make a fire out of it. Because Adam Arishan made a fire, he created, quote unquote, he created fire Motzei Shabbos. So we do it Motzei Shabbos to commemorate the creation of fire. There's one problem with that, Rav Devere points out, and that's what Rav Kook is going to talk about. If we're commemorating Motzei Shabbos during Havdalah, that man rubbed two rocks together and created fire, why is the Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Borei Miorei Ha'esh? Blessed are you, God, who created fire. God didn't create the fire. He left it to man to create the fire. So why are we making a blessing that God created fire? So Rav Kook says as follows at the bottom of page 128. Yesod birchas ma'orei hareish ulahora shelo levad habriya horaganis v'chol yitzuri bereishis sativ and ma'aseh yidei Hashem emo. The purpose of this bracha that we make every single Motzei Shabbos Borei Me'orei Eish is an unbelievable message to us, and we need to focus on this message every Motzei Shabbos when we say Borei Me'orei Eish. We all understand that God created the world. And everything in the world is functioning according to God's will. But what about inventions? Who made these inventions? They're unbelievable inventions, unbelievable technology. These are man using his brain to create inventions and technology. Every generation, man invents new things. Where did these things come from? At the end of the day, they're all God's creations. God invested a certain person with an idea. It's true, the man came up with the idea, but God selected a person to come up with that idea. And the idea that he came up with is to use things that God created and mix them together in a certain way that become an invention that can help mankind, hopefully, that kind of invention. So they're looking for a cure, a vaccine for the coronavirus. They're looking for this vaccine. What are they using? They're using things that are available in Teva. They're using things that God already created, chemicals, compounds, all kinds of things that God already created. And man, in his ingenuity, is doing tests to see which one of these things or numerous things need to be put together and in what quantity to make a vaccine. So what is man doing? He's using his God-given intellect and God-given materials, and he's putting it together to make a vaccine, and then somebody's going to win some $1 million prize for coming up with the vaccine, which is fine. He's a God-selected person to use his brain and to use materials that God gave him. I'm skipping now to top page 129. Al kein anu mevorchim al adova rishon shehod si adam b'chachmasa gu av godel chol eschacher shekol advam malachusiyim she'odam mamtzi b'chachmasa gu yetziras ha'or v'eish. What's the very first invention that man ever created? It wasn't Word, it wasn't Apple, it wasn't a nano, it wasn't a car. What's the very first thing that man, through his intellect and using God-given materials, created? Fire. Motzei Shabbos, Adam became an inventor. He rubbed two rocks together and he made fire. Man's first creative act, man's first invention. And this teaches us that even though this is man's first invention, I recognize that the two, who created the two rocks that Adam rubbed together? God. And who created Adam? God. And who gave Adam his intellect? God. And who put into his intellect to rub two rocks together? God. So while it is man that put the whole thing together, the brain, two rocks, all the materials were provided by God. So God's the root of all these inventions, and so we bless God, Borei Me'orei Eish. And now I'm skipping towards the end of the paragraph. 4 lines before the end of this paragraph, this is Rav Kook himself writing. Al kain kasher b'yom haShabbos onu me'idem al hayetzira haklol shlo nimtza imo shito seichel prati. What do we do on Shabbos? We stop doing work. Why? Because we are celebrating the fact that God created the world. The creative work of God ended for that period of time during the 6 days, and God rested on the seventh. And so too the human being. His creative work days are 6, and he rests on the seventh. And therefore, no creative work is done on the seventh day. Excuse me. So what we just celebrated Shabbos to celebrate the fact that God's creation of 6 days, and God rested on the seventh day. No creative work, and therefore man doesn't engage in creative work. And now we're ready to make Havdalah. And we're ready to do what? We're making Havdalah, and we're going to go back to the work week. But 1 second. Before you go back to the work week, I have to teach you a lesson. Because during your work week, your creative 6 days, the new days ahead of you, you're going to start getting that shook in your mind that the inventions and the great projects that you're going to do during the 6 days are yours. This is mine. This is my brain, my materials. This is my work. So after we come off Shabbos celebrating that God created for 6 days and rested on the seventh day, and we too work for 6 days and rest on the seventh day before we run out of our houses and we finish Havdalah and we're ready to go back to our work week and our jobs and our creative abilities and our laboratories, and we're going to create things, we need to first make a Borei Me'orei Ha'esh. We go back in history, we make a bracha on the very first invention of mankind, fire, and we bless God for creating the fire, which means, God, you created those 2 rocks, you created Adam, you created his brain, and at the moment you decided appropriate, which was Motzei Shabbos, Adam rubbed those 2 stones together and fire came. Borei Me'orei Ha'esh. And this is our introduction to Borei Me'orei Ha'esh. Rav Kook says our entire creative work week of 6 days. We testify Motzei Shabbos the same way that Shabbos is a testimony that God created the world. Motzei Shabbos, when we make Havdalah and we're going to say Borei Me'orei Ha'esh, which get a fire, let's make a Borei Me'orei Ha'esh. It's an incredible bracha. This is the setup. It's the introduction. It's the preparation for an entire work week. I am now separating, being mavdul from Shabbos, and I'm going to my creative laboratory, my creative inventions. I first have to remember that Motzei Shabbos I made a Borei Me'orei Ha'esh. The very first invention was God's invention too, because he gave seichel and the materials to man. Shegam kol ma'aseinu pa'alta lanu Hashem ad shegam hadram ha'malachusim, even inventions k'ma'orei ha'esh ma'aseh yodavhem ata hachinos l'mor b'shemesh. I'm skipping now to the bottom paragraph. This is Rav Dvir's lesson for us from this Rav Kook. Sometimes we're not sure, we're confused. Who do we have to thank for an invention? Klapi b'nei ha'adam ha'polim l'man am Yisrael or klapi ha'kadosh baruch hu shebe'emes raku azreinu maginenu. Yeshem argishim ki ha'odol l'kadosh baruch hu mevatas hit'alumos mimatzei ha'adam ki go mesivus nafsham shel chayalei tzahal v'kochot ha'bitachon o shahukar klapi mamatzei ha'adam misnakeres l'kiddush l'kadosh baruch hu chalila. There are people that are on opposite extremes. There are people that say that the state of Israel is in the hands of the army. They protect the state of Israel. It's in their hands. And the people on the other side say, how can you say such a thing? It's God that protects the state of Israel. And Chas v'shalom, there are people that come to these conclusions. They say, you know what? We don't need an army. Of course, David HaMelech needed an army. He couldn't say Tehillim and conquer Eretz Yisrael. He couldn't do it, right? You had to have a general, Yoav, and an army. That's the Gemara in Sanhedrin. If not David saying Tehillim, Yoav couldn't win. If not Yoav going out to battle, David HaMelech's Tehillim would have not been successful. So you have to have a partnership here. So there are some people, though, at extremes. They say the army is what protects the Jewish people. And the other people look at them and say, what are you talking about? It's God that protects Jewish people. I don't even need an army. Who's right? Do we need an army? Do we not need an army? So what we learn from this Rav Kook is that the truth is we have a partnership here. Harav Melamdeinu, Rav Kook teaches us, Ki ein stira bein hatzdodim. There's no contradiction between these two ideas. Yecholteinu lif'ol hagen al atzmeinu nitna lanu me'es Hashem. The ability to protect ourselves is God, but God needs soldiers. That's the way he created the world. The Jewish people entered Eretz Yisrael with an army. They conquered Eretz Yisrael with an army, with a lot of Tehillim and a lot of davening, but they conquered with an army. To protect Eretz Yisrael, you need an army, but you must have God's army. There must be an army that is devoted to protecting Eretz Yisrael in the name of God. So he gives an example, Rav Devere. Kippus Barzel, Iron Dome. This Iron Dome, the Iron Dome shot down 92% of the rockets coming from Gaza. Iron Dome. Who gets credit for Iron Dome? He Yetzira Enushis. It's certainly an invention of great men who had this idea, but what is it? It's technology of things put together that God created. Man's brain that he got from God, putting together different things that God created in the world. So it's true, it's a creation of an invention of man, the Iron Dome, but mekabelet chosemet umamad shel yitzir elokis. The seal on the Iron Dome is God's seal. So the Iron Dome is man's invention, but it has to have the seal of God on it to function properly. God ultimately is going to decide whether an Iron Dome is going to shoot down a missile coming from Gaza. And God will ultimately decide if the Iron Dome will chas v'sholom miss a missile, a rocket coming from Gaza. Because for the Iron Dome to work properly, it must have God's seal. So yes, man invented it, man created it, and God gave us the materials and the seichel to do it. And it needs God's seal for it to be successful. And this is the unbelievable bracha we make Motzoi Shabbos, Borei Me'or Ha'esh. God created a perfectly imperfect world. I'm heading out to my work days after Havdalah into that perfectly imperfect world. And I'm going to do things in the world. I'm going to be creative. I'm going to make inventions. I'm going to do things during the 6 days of work. I'm going to paint beautiful pictures. I'm going to make beautiful gardens. I'm going to say big chedushim in Tosfos. I'm going to say big chedushim in Rashi. The person needs to understand Borei Me'or Ha'esh. God's gift to you is your seichel. And God's gift to you are the materials you use to create your inventions and to use your seichel. So yes, there's a partnership here that is created in this perfectly imperfect world that comes in its beautiful concept through the bracha Borei Me'or Ha'esh and Havdalah as we enter our work week, that perfectly imperfect world that we head out every Motzoi Shabbos to work on perfecting. All the chaylim should have a refuah shalema. All these that need Yeshuas should have Yeshuas. All those that need nechamas should have nechamas. Everybody have a wonderful day. Again, it's a big simcha for me. I hope it's a big simcha for you. We finished Perek Aleph and Middos. We're going to tie some loose knots tomorrow in Masechta Middos. It'll be Balineh to finish for this round of Perek Aleph Masechta Middos. I urge those who have the time, take a look at that video. You have the link. It's free right now to do it. You will really enjoy the video. And everybody have a wonderful, good, healthy, safe day. Balineh, the shir will begin tomorrow at its usual time at 10 o'clock. Sei gesund.